Hi, this is part 3 of the fairy tale called Magicabala. This was how I was trained to be able to channel from spirit. And they gave me something that I would relate to because this, I found out later, was the path of my life, really. And they were teaching me the knowings of my soul and my divine connection. So this is part 3. As they walked on side by side, the whirling, twirling leaves of orange were left behind, and a subtler blend of yellow took the air. Demara stood still. There was nothing to say, but say she must. "What is it?" were the spoken words. She began to feel afraid, but knew no reason why. The air was filled with yellow mist that was nearer than her breath. "Is it the sun's rays?" she cried. "No," the jester sighed. "Is it the sands of the desert in a rage?" "No," the jester replied. "It is what it is, Demara. Stand very still and experience the is." Demara stood still and felt herself floating in the mist. Her feet left the ground, her eyes closed as she drifted into a dream. She was at a racetrack. Many people were there. "Run, run, Dunclair," shouted the crowds as the race drew to a close. Their arms waved in the air and the adrenaline surge made them look wild and unkempt, as their future seemed to depend on who won the race. Dunclair put all the physical effort he could muster up into that last furlong. His sweat-soaked mane flew into the air. He could feel the tendons in his long legs straining and crying out in pain. But beside him all the way had been the elegant black mare, who seemed to fly through the air, her hooves never touching the ground. Dunclair snorted, breathed more deeply, and forced his legs to move even faster to cross the line in front of his spirited friend. The crowd cheered, and Dunclair felt that proud air of satisfaction from winning yet again, and knowing that he was the fastest and the most powerful horse here today. It took him a long time to recover after each race. He was older now. The muscles seized more easily. He felt the pain of having to put so much effort into keeping his position as champion racehorse. Today the sweat poured from his toughened coat. Frothy saliva dropped from his open jaw. The jockey covered him quickly for fear of the cold taking hold. He knew they had pushed it to the limits today. As Dunclair was led slowly away, he caught a fleeting glimpse of the black mare standing serenely still in all her beauty. She tossed her head to catch his gaze. Her coat still shone, her eyes were bright. Had she allowed him to win? The question confused his thoughts. His energy had been spent. He could not think of such things today. The next few weeks were taken up as usual in recovering from the race. The trainers and stable hands worked well, massaging the weakened limbs, grooming the coat and mane. Dunclair ate warm bran mashes, barley and oats, fortified with the potions and elixirs of the modern world that would stimulate him to run faster next time. Since the beginning of his racing career, Dunclair had been either racing or recovering. There seemed nothing in between. There was nothing in between, until the day he caught sight of the elegant black mare in her stillness, and had been reminded of when he was a foal. He had been free then, skipping around the fields, experiencing the life that was held within. Now he hardly felt alive at all, especially after a hard race. But this was a fleeting thought for Dunclair. The grooms and stable lads were there carrying out their duties, and he soon got swept along with the routine. The day of the next race came. The training had been intense. Don Clare felt frisky and his nerves were jangled. It seems they gave him more and more liquid tonics to keep the pace supreme. He was led very carefully from the horse box. Nothing must go wrong. Don Clare felt strange inside. Not only were his nerves strained, but disaster seemed imminent. The jockey led him to the line and mounted. There was no preliminary walking round. The trainer knew that the tension was high and any small mishap would frighten Don Clare, and who knows what would happen then. Don Clare turned this way and that. He reared up on his hind legs. The race must start soon. Under Starter's orders, the gate was up. Hooves hit the turf and flying in the air. Don Clare's eyes stared straight ahead. Blood rushed to his head as the energy surged. The noise was incredible. Clattering hooves, heavy breathing, shouting jockeys. His eardrums felt as if they would burst. What had happened? He had never heard this noise before. He forged ahead past the first furlong marker. Some distant part of him seemed to cry for help, but his body knew only to run and run and run. He had no control now. He was swaying from left to right, colliding with the other horses. The jockey fell as Don Clare crashed to the ground, glancing the coat of the sleek black mare by his side. He had not even seen her there. He lay peaceful now. The race had been run, a different race, one of life and death. He knew not which way the decision had gone, for his leg felt broken. The trainer had seen it all. He ran with the team to the place where Don Clare lay. The first thoughts were for his legs. Each one was checked in turn. They had to know whether he would run again. Don Clare felt strange. He knew there was a part of him that was never recognised. It was a very important part of him that had been neglected for a long, long time. These people did not even know of its existence. They saw only those long legs that could run a race. Don Clare felt better than he had felt for a long time, even though his body was badly shaken. The trainer confirmed that no bones were broken, just much bruising and straining that would have to be seen to. Don Clare rose to his feet after a lot of cajoling from the trainer and stable lads. They were his friends, but he had realised they knew no more than the racing game, and the game of life was very different to that. What a day! He felt that had he not have fallen, he would never have recognised these important things. They walked him slowly back to the horse box. By then, the race had been won. Many horses were being fed, pampered, and packed away again. The trainers and jockeys chatted on and on, reliving that awful race and many of the others. Don Clare felt physically weak and hoped they would get him back into the box quickly. But there, standing in the distance, was the black mare. She seemed to beckon to him silently. Don Clare was confused. It seemed to be a magical communication, one for his and her. Had she won that day? He did not need an answer. It was of no consequence now. He knew that he would never race again. Back at the stables, the mending began. The limbs were bathed and managed. Don Clare was looked after very well. No mention was made of racing, no elixirs given. After a few weeks, he was put out to graze in a beautiful green field. The sun shone on the horizon. Buttercups and daisies were scattered here and there. He felt so at home here. He nosed the fresh green grass, smelt the newness there. Hoverflies danced past his ear. He saw their beauty now. He looked up to survey the fields around and knew that he had found inside himself the best trophy of all. And he had found it in the stillness, not the running. As Demara opened her eyes and heard the jester saying again, "It is what it is, Demara. Stand very still and experience the is." "I am, I am, I am," she cried. "Good, Demara, you are learning well. Let us walk on through this maze of life's colours." Demara took his hand so that she could be drawn away from this knowledge of yellow that is just is. She knew that she would never forget how far she had come. There was no going back. Thank you for listening to part 3. I will be giving you part 4 at some point. Thank you.